The Chronicle thanks our 2023 Meet the Candidates sponsors: Ann Colton Films, Flossmoor Station Restaurant and Brewery, Jonathan Kane Salon and Spa, and Tom Brabeck Law Office. With their help, HF voters will be well informed on Election Day, April 4th.
My name is Nathan Legardy. I'm a longtime Flossmoor resident, and I'm running for re-election to the HF School Board. I'm also an '89 graduate of the high school, and I have a family of 4, including a junior who is at the high school presently. So our reserve level is state mandated. So we also have in our policy manual that we actually have a certain level of reserve. So the state recommends that you have at least 10 months. Our policy manual recommends that we have at least a year, just to maintain any bills in case there is a shortage in funding. As you all, as voters know, our largest bill, personnel, and so that takes up a large amount of our state budget, of our school budget, and so that's why we have over $40 million in reserves right now on hand.
Okay, thanks. Got to pay your people, even if the state does not pay. We have to be able to keep the schools open. So I'm the chair of HF's planning committee, and one of the planning committee has oversight for everything related to students. Anytime we have a capital project, it comes in 2 phases. One, it will come through finance, which is, that's obvious, but it also comes through planning because we have to vet if this is going to be beneficial to students. One of the things that we do is we go through a very structured process where our administrators have to present proposals, they have to present data that talks about how many students will benefit from this. For instance, in the instance of the culinary project, how many kids are actually coming out to use culinary as a profession? For science, we looked at our science pathways to see if students are, certainly STEM is a big thing for kids and for professions, at least for the next 5 to 10 years. And so making sure that the outcomes, that our students are using these facilities in a way that's going to benefit them. So that is we get 40 to 50 page proposals just on outcomes, not necessarily the financial piece. That's latter, before we even decide this is something that we should proceed forward with. Okay. It's a difficult balancing act, especially in this current environment where it's very inflationary. We had a proposal for the science extension probably about 18 months ago, and we went through many iterations of to vet whether or not this is something that would be beneficial to our students and staff. And then we went to the bid process. And what was shocking about that was, our bids were substantially higher than we originally projected. So what did? We tabled it. We want to maintain fiscal responsibility in anything that we do. So balancing capital projects versus teacher salaries versus new curriculum initiatives, all of that is an interesting balance. The good news is we are in a very, very strong fiscal position. We have a A+ rating in terms of our bond rating, which allows us to get the cheapest credit. And we're doing our due diligence to make sure that before we take that step to actually dig dirt, this is something that's going to fit and be suitable for us. I think you can always do more in terms of residency, in terms of making sure that the kids that are in the district are the ones who are truly benefiting. The taxpayers are actually benefiting the kids that are in this district. It is a topic that our district has wrestled with, not only at the high school level, but at the elementary school level. And it's a struggle. However, we have dedicated resources, investigative resources that are deployed to make sure that we're able to follow up on leads. It's not just an HF issue. Certainly we rely on community sources to be able to give us tips, and we follow those leads. So certainly we have dedicated resources. Could there be more? Of course, but that goes back to that balancing act of where do you spend and what's the return. So it's important for us, and so I'm pleased with where we are, and we're it seems like every month we're coming up with discoveries, which allows us to take the appropriate actions as it relates to residency. When I was elected in 2019, one of the issues that was very prevalent at that time was school climate. And certainly sexual assault, harassment, fighting, all of that fits under that purview. And one of the things that we saw coming out of the pandemic, school climate had really taken even a larger hit. So one of the things that has happened since our new principal, Dr. Clinton Alexander, has come in and done, he is focused largely on fixing school climate. Our incident rates are down as it relates to sexual assault, sexual harassment. Those incidence rates are way down in terms of, you asked the question if this is isolated. Yeah, I think it's more isolated. Certainly in terms of the reports that we're getting, it would point to the fact that these are more isolated incidents, but they're very serious. And so to that end, we have to make sure that we're providing supports to our students so they understand how to report incidents. They have to be able to feel comfortable in the building that they're walking in. And so we've put more staff in those hallways to make sure that there's proper oversight. Of course, we have cameras and surveillance. All of the different tools have been deployed to make sure that we have a safe environment. But then also we're providing social and emotional support to our kids and to our staff to kind of get through what really was a challenging time as a result of the pandemic. And so I'm pleased at our trajectory and our direction, but I think we have there's more to go. School climate, there were many challenges related to it. But as a result, we also had issues of kids who were underperforming in reading, in math. The proficiency and performance were down drastically. So what we ended up having to do was provide more interventions to give them better supports, not only in reading as a subject area, but also the extensions of science, social science, and math, which require reading comprehension. We realized that was also a struggle. We're also changing the way we do math, and that's something that's under current review. We will likely move to a more integrated math model. That integrated math model will allow kids to have algebra throughout, sustained geometry throughout, in a sustained basis, and we think that'll lead to greater outcomes as it relates to test scores, as it relates to student preparedness, as it relates to the ability to be able to take on higher level courses. So those are all things that we're trying to do to shift and improve our school climate, but also our academic outcomes, which will lead to a greater school profile. One of our focuses has been we're trying to be more data centric in our decision making. That was not something that was always top of mind at HF as it related to the board. Certainly administrators use data, teachers use data to a certain extent, but our board tools were not as data centric. One of the things that we did last year was we put our policies online. So now there's an easier searchable database. Another thing that we created was a student dashboard, which talks about student successes and all of the different factors from GPA, reading, math, performance. So we can actually have some indicators and a baseline to be able to dictate what will be the measures that we need to take to improve student success. So being more data focused is probably the top thing, and we've got some work to do in that regard.